It's strange how the smallest moments can catch you completely off guard. One minute you're doing something routine, something as simple as loading groceries into your car, and the next you're wrapped up in a situation that makes you wonder how bizarre people can really be. I've been in this town a long enough to watch it shift from a tight-knit community where everyone looked out for each other, to a place where titles like HOA president suddenly convinced certain people that they were wearing a crown. Years ago, that title meant organizing block parties or reminding folks to water the community garden, not lording over neighbors like some self-appointed monarch. But times change, and apparently so do egos. I had just finished up at the local market, tossing the last few bags into my trunk, when a teenage boy couldn't have been more than 16 or 17 swagger ed up to me with the kind of entitlement you'd expect from someone who thought the universe revolved around him. No hello, no manners. He jabbed a finger at my groceries as if they belonged to him, and said, "Give me those. My mom runs this neighborhood, and she said I can take whatever I need." I stared at him, certain I must have misheard. I even laughed under my breath, assuming it was a joke. But the kid's face didn't move an inch. No smirk, no teasing glint. "I'm not kidding," he insisted, folding his arms like he was gearing up for a showdown. "You don't want to mess with my mom. She's the HOA president. She can make your life miserable. Now, I've dealt with my fair share of tough guys back when I walked the beat, and even now as the town's police chief. But something about his dead serious expression just made me shake my head. I told him no, and kept loading the car. He spun around and stomped off, whipping out his phone and muttering about how I'd regret this. I brushed it off. Kids talk big when they think someone's watching. But 10 minutes later, as I was getting ready to pull out of the lot, I noticed a patrol car roll in behind me, red and blue lights cutting across my rearview mirror. The officer stepped out wearing that tight-lipped look that told me he already wasn't enjoying the call. "Sir," he said, "I need to ask you a few questions. We received a report about aggressive behavior toward a minor in this parking lot." I paused, set down the last bag, then reached into my jacket and pulled out my badge. The officer's eyes widened slightly. "Chief Morrison," he said, straightening immediately. "That's right, Officer Daniels," I replied evenly. "Now, did this report happen to mention what led up to this supposed aggressive behavior?" He glanced at his notepad and shook his head. "It says you threatened a teenager named Tyler Petton after he asked you for help." I let out a dry laugh. "Creative version of events," I said. Then I walked him through what actually happened. I also pointed out the obvious. Security cameras covered every corner of that parking lot, and at least 3 shoppers saw the entire exchange. Then I asked the question I already knew the answer to. "Let me guess, the caller was Patricia Petton, HOA president of Maplewood Estates." Daniels nodded. "She insisted we respond immediately. Said you were dangerous." I sighed. Of course, it was Patricia, better known around town as Karen behind her back, ever since she took the HOA presidency and wielded it like a weapon. For 2 years, she'd micromanaged lawns, mailboxes, holiday decorations, anything that let her feel powerful. But this, filing a false police report, that was a new low. "Follow me to the station," I told Officer Daniels. "We'll document everything properly. But first, we're taking a little detour." The HOA clubhouse was only a few minutes away, and I had a strong feeling Patricia would be there, probably already holding court and rewriting neighborhood rules to include grocery store boundaries. Sure enough, her silver Lexus was sprawled across 2 parking spaces, right out front. Classic. Inside, she was mid-lecture, waving her hands at 2 board members in that grating, nasal tone that could strip paint off a wall. "And that's why we need stricter rules about who can shop at our local stores," she was saying. "We can't have outsiders causing trouble." The second she spotted me, her face lit up with that smug, triumphant grin. "There he is," she announced dramatically. "Officers, arrest this man. He threatened my poor Tyler." But her little scene crumbled instantly when Officer Daniels stepped in behind me. "Chief Morrison," he said formally, "we've reviewed the market security footage. It clearly shows the minor approaching you and making demands. You could practically feel the air leak out of Patricia's sails." The smug smile evaporated. Confusion washed across her face like someone had unplugged her entire script. "Chief," she whispered weakly. "That's correct, Mrs. Pettit," I said, keeping my tone professional. "Your son didn't ask for help. He tried to intimidate me into giving him groceries because his exact words, 'His mom runs the neighborhood.'" The board members shifted, uncomfortable now that the truth was taking shape. "Furthermore," I added, "you called 911 to file a false report claiming I threatened your son. Multiple witnesses and surveillance footage show otherwise. What your son attempted was intimidation and extortion." Patricia opened and closed her mouth like a stunned fish. But Tyler said, "Tyler lied," I said plainly. "And you acted on that lie without doing even basic due diligence. Do you understand the seriousness of filing a false report?" The room went so silent you could hear the hum of the air conditioner struggling in the corner. One of the board members, Robert Sullivan, finally found his voice. "Patricia," he said carefully, "this true? Did you really call the police without checking what happened?" She snapped toward him, anger bubbling up. "Robert, you don't understand. This man was—" I cut her off sharply. "Mrs. Pettit, I'd recommend you stop talking. Officer Daniels, go ahead. Issue a formal written warning for now. I'll be forwarding everything to the district attorney." Daniels began reading the warning. Patricia collapsed into a chair, her hands trembling. "As for your son," I added, "he'll be referred to juvenile services. And the market is considering banning him entirely." Patricia looked like someone had pulled a trapdoor open beneath her feet. "But I wasn't finished," Mr. Sullivan continued, turning to the board. "I'll also be filing a formal complaint against Mrs. Pettit. She abused her position by attempting to have me arrested under false pretenses. I believe that merits an emergency meeting." Well, Laird nodded, face grim. "Yes, absolutely." Everything after that unfolded quickly. An emergency HOA meeting was called. I presented every shred of evidence, the footage, the witness statements, the full timeline. Patricia tried to defend herself, insisting she was just protecting her child, but facts don't bend to theatrics. The board voted unanimously to remove her as HOA president. She was barred from holding any HOA position for 5 years, but the legal fallout was only beginning. The district attorney pressed charges, filing a false police report. It was a misdemeanor, yes, but one carrying up to 6 months in jail and a hefty $5,000 fine. Patricia threw money at an expensive lawyer, but it didn't matter. The footage was indisputable. The 911 call was damning. Her son's behavior, fueled entirely by her example, was undeniable. Tyler's punishment was comparatively mild, 40 hours of community service and a diversion program. But even the judge had stern words for him. 3 months later, the courtroom overflowed for Patricia's sentencing. Most of the faces belonged to neighbors from Maplewood Estates, people who had endured her reign of nitpicking and intimidation. The judge didn't sugarcoat a single thing. "Mrs. Pettit," he began sternly, "you did more than misuse police resources. You attempted to weaponize law enforcement against an innocent man, your own police chief, out of arrogance and spite." He lifted a thick stack of papers. 37 complaints in 2 years, he read aloud. "For curtains, the wrong shade of beige. For children's bikes left on driveways. For grass a 1/4 inch too long. You have ruled through fear." What leadership? When her lawyer tried to object, the judge silenced him with a raised hand. "We've also received reports," the prosecutor added, "that you told your son he could take what he wanted from neighbors." Several residents corroborated similar incidents. This was the first one to escalate this far. Patricia glared at me from the defendant's table, makeup cracking. "Harriscue, the confident mask in ruins." Then came the sentence: 90 days in county jail, with 60 suspended, 30 days to be served immediately, 2 years of supervised probation, 300 hours of community service, a $1,500 fine. The room erupted in whispers. Patricia went stark white. "But Your Honor," her lawyer protested. "She's a mother, a community leader, a leader," the judge replied. "Does not teach her son that he is above the law. That is not leadership. That is tyranny." He turned to the bailiff. "Take her into custody." As the cuffs clicked around her wrists, Patricia shrieked, "You can't do this. I'm the HOA president. I keep property values up." The judge's gavel came down like thunder. "Former HOA president," he corrected. And just like that, the neighborhood tyrant finally faced the consequences she dodged for years. If you found some satisfaction watching a power-hungry HOA president finally face justice, go ahead and hit that like button. It helps more people find stories like this. And don't forget to subscribe for more real-life tales where justice takes the wheel and entitlement hits a dead end.